pressure on my friend whatsoever. You're in for a real treat in a few minutes when she offers us a biblical storytelling of Mary and Elizabeth greeting one another. Before we go to that, though, I just wanted to review, because it's in the context of Advent that we are gathering today, and some of you were here last week when I had preached about Advent, and Advent being a pregnant pause, even though the world is so busy running past us in, breakneck pace. We are invited at this time to make space, make room for the holy, which is already here and coming again. And a few other aspects of Advent I'd like to lift up just for a moment are also, not only is this a time of pregnant pause, it's also a time of darkness. It's a time the days are getting shorter, we're lighting our candles. And sometimes when we think about darkness, we think of scary, which darkness can be scary, but also darkness is about unknown. It's about that which is coming that we just don't know. So maybe the not knowing can be the scary part, but so much good is birthed from the dark soil of the earth, from the dark womb, all of this. So just an awareness that darkness is a part of this season. Today's reading for Advent 2, which will be read tonight in the Celtic liturgy, both from Isaiah and from the Gospel of Matthew, talks about John the Baptist going out into the wilderness. And we heard it, of course, in the lessons and carols, lots of reading about the wilderness and music about the wilderness. Advent is also a wilderness time, and all that we think of about wilderness, going out into the wilderness, sometimes into the unknown, sometimes to be separate from the everyday. You think about the desert mothers and fathers going far away, Jesus being tempted in the wilderness. And so, oh my gosh, the 40 years of wandering around in the wilderness for the Israelite people. So this wilderness experience is really foundational to our tradition, both through our Jewish heritage and through our Christian heritage. And so it's also a season of generosity. If any of you read Catherine's reflection on Wednesday on the Feast of St. Nick, it's a season of generosity, like St. Nicholas, a real live bishop of Myra, who was giving out gifts in an anonymous and sacrificial ways to those who needed them. And we are invited always to do that, but especially in this season when it's the end of the tax year, to be particularly generous. Just kidding, but not really. And also, as we're moving, into this season of gift giving, to remember why we're doing it. And it's not out of obligation. It's not out of stress, hopefully, but from a real sense of joy about that which we have, and giving not only from our abundance, but sacrificially sometimes too, opening our homes in new ways. And I'd just like to invite those of us who are doing that. I know how stressful it can be, the entertaining that comes or the going to parties that comes with this particular season, but to pray for the grace to offer up our homes and to enter into others' homes with gratitude and grace and joy, which is what it's supposed to be at the root of it. But it's so easy, I know in my own life, for us to forget that part. So I pray that for you. Finally, I just want to say, Advent is a season of expansiveness. It's a season when we acknowledge that our hearts can hold both pain and grief and loss, and also light and joy and expectant hope and love. All of those are the full spectrum of the human experience, and all of those are a part of this season where we wait for Emmanuel, God with us. So I invite Elizabeth at this time to share with you a very important Advent story.
Thank you, Mary B. Well, my name is Ruth, and you may know this, but Ruth means friend, and I have a wonderful friend, Elizabeth. In the summer, when she and Zechariah come to escape some of the heat and the busyness, we are neighbors, and we have long been friends. And Elizabeth has been a midwife to me when 2 of my 4 sons were born. I could not have asked for a more blessed woman. She took care of me, and she saw my boys birth into the world, and I watched her count their fingers and their toes, and wash their heads and wash their bodies, and hand them to me with such love and gentleness. And I also watched her walk home, stroking the tears from her barren cheeks. And so many times I thought, how has my friend, whose name, Elizabeth, means God's oath, remained so faithful to this God, so faithful and righteous and sure of his love for her when her womb has remained barren? But she has. And she's played with my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, and I've never seen a jealous bone in her body, but I have watched those tears. Well, this summer, I saw, and I admit I am a bit of a nosy neighbor. I'm sorry, but I am. I like watching what she's doing. She's so good at handiwork and so good at picking the figs without denting or bruising the gentle fruit. But I saw her hugging Zechariah and holding his cheeks and kissing his cheeks and blessing his hands and telling him to go, that she was all right, that she was just fine. And I could see Zechariah's face, but he didn't say anything. Nothing. Not a word, not a sound. And Elizabeth said, go, please go. And finally he bowed his head and he left. Now, I have a husband, and there are times when it is wonderful to be apart from them. So maybe Elizabeth needed that time to be by herself, to be with her God. But as we gathered and watched the sunset over the beautiful hills, the olives and the almonds and all the gorgeous fruit growing, I sensed something new about her. I don't know, I couldn't tell you exactly what it was. Maybe a sense of peace that I had not seen. And she, like me, is very old, but there was a lightness in her step. And I thought, maybe this God that she loves, that I love, gave her peace, gave her acceptance, gave her a gift that makes her heart rest in love, even with her barren womb. And we spent these days together. The summer's dwindling down. The sun is starting to wane a bit. And one day I was out checking my figs when I heard, Elizabeth! 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 And Elizabeth came running out of her house, as you would imagine, and there was a girl running up to her. And Elizabeth embraced her and said, Mary, the moment your greeting reached me, the child in my womb leaped for joy. And I thought, my hearing is going. Elizabeth said the child in her womb leaped for joy. But then Elizabeth put her hands on her belly as though there was a child in there leaping for joy. And then she said to this girl woman, Mary, with the silky brown hair and the dancing eyes, who am I to be visited by the mother of my Lord? Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the child you will bear. And Mary looked at her cousin, her old cousin Elizabeth, and she said, "My soul magnifies the Lord." And both of them started crying and laughing at the same time. And then, thank goodness, knowing the nosy neighbor that I am, Elizabeth said, "Ruth, I know you're there. Come on over." So I came, and we ate, and we talked of the gift of womanhood. And Elizabeth said, "Yes, it is true. I am with child." And Mary said, "So am I." And I knew I was with two God-blessed women. And so was I, just in their company. Well, Mary stayed, and she and Elizabeth, every night, Mary would sit on the ground, and Elizabeth would comb her hair. All that luscious brown hair. And then Mary would stand and brush Elizabeth's gray hair. And sometimes they would sing and hum, and I would tell them about having babies and how wonderful it is. And 6 months passed by like this, and Elizabeth's time came. And Mary was there, and I was there, midwives to her beloved cousin and my beloved friend. And we witnessed the birth of a healthy, beautiful baby boy with 10 fingers and 10 toes and a downy head of dark hair. And I knew it was true, that nothing is impossible with God. Amen. So, in the spirit of this season, and just as some of you have heard, the catechesis of the Good Shepherd, what we ask the children and each other is, what did you hear? What did you hear in that story? Or what do you know of that story of the visitation? Okay.
What did you hear?
I thought that was beautiful, and I heard friendship and love. And one of the things, I've worked with the youth for a long time, and one of the things that I love talking to them about is that Elizabeth and Mary were cousins, which made John and Jesus cousins. It blows their minds. But they weren't first cousins, but they were still cousins, and the children can understand that, and you just brought that home so well. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So you heard love and friendship. Absolutely. Thank you. What
Yeah.
else? You're good, Wally.
So kind of along the same lines, thinking about the love and friendship, what I found really valuable is that Ruth loved Elizabeth when she was barren, and she loved her when she was filled with the Holy Child too. So that love was not contingent.
Thank you. Thank you. What else did you hear? Yes.
I not only heard love and devotion, but commitment in the face of, by Elizabeth, in the face of reality that she was bearing all these years, and she still clung and served the Lord. That's what I heard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. What
Yeah.
else? Oh, thank you. I'm getting my steps in, for which I'm grateful.
It was really beautiful, thank you. It reminded me of, as a, I guess, early 20-something, I saw the play Godspell, and the humanity of the characters that are part of stories that we hear, but we don't really understand that these were very real people who had all of these emotions that we have, and uncertainties and fears, and the powerful images from that play. You brought some of those same kinds of images to my mind as you were telling their story, and it was really beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Yes.
So I liked how you developed the mystery of the event. We don't know what's happening. We don't know God is working, and we're just living our lives, trying to celebrate the little victories, and then it unfolds that this is just an amazing event, and I love that. I just enjoyed that quite a bit.
I'm so glad. I think, as you said, as you've all said, that it's easy to think of these people. I don't know. Sometimes I read this story and I'm like, it's just pages in the Holy Bible, but that was horrible for Elizabeth to be barren, and yet I love what you said about her worth as a friend was in her, not her ability to produce a child or not, and how unconditional is God's love. And I feel like she's such a testament of faith. And I wanted to play this up a little bit, like Zechariah couldn't talk. Sorry, I wrote something I thought was really funny, but y'all didn't, and that's okay. Like he just couldn't speak, but that's okay. That's okay.
It's funny now.
Okay, it's funny now. Okay, well, better late than never.
One of the things like this idea when we hear these stories in the Bible, we think these people were given something better than what we've been given, but we realize they're just like us, walking and talking and going through life just like us, even Jesus in his humanity. And one of the things that really was powerful for me, Elizabeth, in this was the friendship between Ruth and Elizabeth, and then this comfort that Elizabeth and Mary gave each other. Like we were talking about the other day, that Elizabeth had to offer to Mary this sense of her life experience and her wisdom. And Ruth offered to Elizabeth and Mary her experience of having born children and seeing grandchildren born and all of that. And then what Mary brought Elizabeth was friendship and love and comfort and youth and vitality. And so as we're pondering this story in the perspective of what we're doing here, it's sharing our stories and seeing our stories in God's story. So I want you to take a minute. We don't have to be a woman to have been, of course, to bear a child, but to have been in a situation where someone else going through something similar to me, or someone who's gone before me, helping me. Just take a minute, and I want you to wonder in your own life, where have you had an experience that's anything like what you just heard and saw? Were you the one offering support and wisdom, or were you the one who was needing that support in some way, or just some really beautiful, holy friendship? Take a minute and see where God might be speaking to you in your own life, either in the past or right now. Where do you see yourself in this story? And what might you be willing to share with the group about that?
I guess we've all had experiences like that, or most of us have anyway. And my experience was that, or with that, the end result was believe. Because I had a friend whose daughter was not fertile, and she wound up having triplets, and another one 9 months later. So,
boy.
And everybody prayed, and I think they thought it was an answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Beautiful, thank you. Right, so I think the word you used was
Believe. Believe it will
believe,
happen.
believe,
Yeah.
believe. And you know, sometimes it's the physical manifestation of exactly what we thought in a child or something like that, and sometimes it's something new that's birthed that we never imagined.
But I don't think you give it a chance if you don't believe.
Okay, and she said, I don't think you give it a chance if you don't believe. Beautiful, thank you. Where else do you see, did you want to say something?
I do. I have a story of a friend that really held me. I have two beautiful daughters, and but I had terrible postpartum depression, and had just moved here and was lonely and sad and just going through a terrible time. And my best friend from Boston came to visit. And I remember we were sitting in a coffee shop and I was crying, which I did every day. And I said to her, am I gonna be okay? And sorry, just the way she looked at me and reached across the table and held my hand and said, you're gonna be okay. And it was just like that little flame of hope, I knew I would be. And so I guess that's what I think of, is that moment of,
Yeah.
without her, I'm not sure I would have been. So that great, deep connection that we have to each other and the impact just going like this can have. I'm a big crybaby, so I'm sorry.
Holy tears.
Holy tears.
Those are
Holy
good.
tears.
Yeah, thank
Holy
God you
tears.
have an open heart.
Yeah.
I'm glad you have an open heart.
Thank you. Thank you. And we realized doing this that this is Mary and Elizabeth.
So we, at one point, thought we were
Oh my
going to do a storytelling with you, and I would be Mary, and she would be Elizabeth. And then we thought, we'll just laugh too much.
I know. Yeah.
Elizabeth, this Elizabeth is so good at it. Why should I get in her way? But yeah, that's true.
We did. But then I thought, I don't want
Yeah. To belittle.
Yeah, I don't want to giggle my way through
Yeah.
the visitation. But
Right.
anyway.
So any other thoughts or stories for you? Thank you. That was beautiful. And I think we've all had moments, right, where someone, whether it's a literal reaching a hand across the table or just being present with us, or we've been that. And you know, as I hear your story, I am encouraged and reminded of how important it is when we're the one offering that support too. Like, to know that just being there, being willing to hold the difficult, I look at Malcolm, my husband, who's done that for so many years at the hospital, years and years and years and years, with so many different, and CJ and so many other people in this room, you know, and you don't have to be clergy to do it, of course, but, you know, but when we are willing to enter in and not feel like we have to fix it, but just be present in love, even when folks are especially when folks are going through hard times, for them to know that we still see them and they're more than the hard thing they're going through at that time, that we can't imagine how much we are bringing Christ's presence into that moment by being able to do that. And if it's not your gift to be able to do that, I'm sure there are many other ways. For some people, it's got to be practical. Like, let me build the ramp, or let me cook the meal, or there's lots of different ways to be that. So any other thoughts about where you see, yes, I'll come right back there.
I always have something to say. I apologize. So I work part-time at JBS Mental Health Authority, and the role that I have there, my job title is parent peer. And that means that I am there to provide guidance and support for parents who have young adults or children with mental health conditions. And what has qualified me to provide that guidance is my own journey with my son with his mental health condition. And there's just still so much stigma about it. And when I kind of look at them, and sometimes I kind of laugh and shrug my shoulders, and of course they're not expecting me to laugh. I'm going like, well, actually, my son's been seeing a psychiatrist since he was 3 years old. And that, I think, is a real pivot moment for those folks. And I know that all that pain, all that challenge has meaning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So beautifully said. Absolutely.
Thank you.
We're not intended to do this alone.
No,
We're not intended to do this alone.
And you all probably know this, but the origin of the word midwife, mid is with, to be with. And I think that's what I hear you saying is just to be with. That's really, although cake is nice. But both are good. All gifts are
Yes.
welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a couple minutes here, unless there was something else I was thinking we might kind of pull about the 3 times we've been together in this series. Is there something else, though, that you're wondering about or want to?
I just wanted to augment what you said about the darkness in the beginning of just, I just love the complementariness of we need both. We need the womb and the earth to grow and be silent, and we need the light. And too much of either one is blinding. Too much light, we can't see. Too much dark, we can't see. So I feel like that's another width.
Thank you. Lovely. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this is the last of the series, and we really have had fun. And we'll be doing a kind of extension of this with healing stories in the Bible that starts in January. Elizabeth will be back. Malcolm will be here. John Burris and I will do some listening sessions. There's Scott Stoner will start us on January 7th. But we want to hear from you. What you've gleaned from this time. When we were with you, the first session we did was about listening devoutly and sharing our stories, and we shared stories with each other. The second one was about the prodigal son, and then this one about Advent and Mary and Elizabeth. And so I'm not going to run around with this. I'm just going to invite you, but I'm going to ask you to stand up, and I'm hoping a few of you will share a word or a phrase or more, if you'd like, about something you're taking away from having spent this sacred time together. What are you taking from this time? Yes. Can you just stand up so everyone, and speak loudly? Is that all right if I'm not running around?
A sense of fellowship and community, knowing that we're all going through this together.
Thank you.
We have each other to lean on during the tough times.
Thank you. Sense of fellowship and community. And I think that we would both say that's very affirming, because that's so much of what we had hoped for. That's why we said, don't set up in classroom style anymore. This is not a classroom. This is really, we're in an incubator together, sharing our stories around table. What else might you, Malcolm?
There are many different ways to have children.
There are many different ways, okay, to have children. Thank you.
And I would just like to say that I think if I had to encapsulate the benefit, it's truly the presence with the CE on the end, the presence that we can only give to one another, which is so sacred, vital, and life-affirming.
Thank you, Tina. Presence, CE at the end. The others are great too. Thank you. Do you mind standing, Louise?
I don't.
Thank you.
But I'm affirming the presence, because that's immediately what I thought about when you started part of the story was presence. And I have, much more of a female intuition thing going on when you start the story, but it's certainly not limited to just the female aspect.
Right.
Because we all need each other, we need support of
Yes.
that, the maleness, and
Yes.
we need that because of the strength that comes to me when I talk about maleness. And strength in female also, because my goodness, to bear a child is not an easy task.
No. No.
And to care for that child. So,
No.
thank you.
Thanks, Louise.
Thank you, Louise. Yes, Betty.
I would just say I missed the first two sessions, and I was sorry I was out of the country and couldn't be here, but I was in Spain, so it was okay.
You're not that sorry, Betty.
But anyway, I've had the privilege of knowing Elizabeth for a while, and I'm relatively new to St. Stephen's, and I really truly believe it's so important, and I tell my friends, and my friends share with me, how important it is to tell your story. We all have a story. We all have bits and pieces of life that can be very rewarding and then can be just a big mess. But if we're not willing to share it, then it gets too hard. And that's really what I just so appreciate what you did today. For me, that was wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank
Betty.
you. I just want to add that it has just been such a joy to be with you all, and I keep thinking of hospitality, and the etymology of that word is guest and host, because we can't be a guest without a host, and we can't be a host without a guest, and just immense gratitude for your hospitality. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Will you join me in thanking Elizabeth for her time and energy and excitement? Thank you. All right, if you haven't seen the lessons and carols, it's awesome. If you have, go home and have a nice little lunch or nap or whatever, and come back for the Celtic service. All right, thank you all, because you are an important part of the circle. Thank you.
Thank you.